Now we'll do next part. Norma basalis externa. Norma basalis externa. Now it looks like this because it's externa. So it's like this, and this bone is actually the same. It's just the surface. This can be seen from below because you can see the teeth, and this is from the above, like the above view. The first point in Norma basalis externa is incisive fossa, which is right here. If you have the skull, it's better. If you don't, it's okay. So you can guess like it goes. If they'll put a stick inside this, it will go from like a nasopalatine and greater palatine. So it has nasopalatine vessels and greater palatine nerves. So greater palatine nerves and vessels it consists. Next point, we know greater palatine vessels, nasopalatine vessels. Another is greater palatine fossa. It has, as the name suggests, greater palatine nerves and vessels. It's written right here, greater palatine nerves and vessels. Now the next part, which I think is going to come tomorrow in the exam, is foramen ovale. By the way, this is a PYQ. Greater palatine is a PYQ. The major thing is foramen ovale because it has been asked in other groups also, and usually they repeat the questions that they ask in other groups. Foramen ovale is like the most well looking, like the most handsomest and the most symmetrical and the best shape. It's in the best shape of the circle. It's the perfect size, as you can see, and it's so much visible that it's the easiest to find, the foramen ovale right here. It's the perfect circle, you can say. Foramen ovale is the perfect circle. It's like a big brother who is an overachiever. Okay, it's foramen ovale, like this. Now what is the contents of foramen ovale? Male. As I told you, it's a big, it has an aura of its own. So M is mandibular nerve, A is accessory middle meningeal artery, L is lesser superficial petrosal nerve, and E is imagery vein. So you just have to learn this, but the mnemonic of this is very famous mnemonic, male. Okay, that's what foramen ovale has: mandibular nerve, lesser superficial petrosal nerve, accessory meningeal, imagery vision. Okay. Next is foramen spinosum, which is like this sneaky little guy, the younger brother. Everybody is so disappointed of him. The younger brother of foramen ovale is foramen spinosum. He is so sneaky. He puts a camera here and make MMS of people. Okay, puts a camera kida and MMS banata hai. Okay, the mnemonic of this is MMNS, middle meningeal artery and nervus spinosus. MMNS, middle meningeal artery and nervus spinosus. So these two brothers, they are like the famous brothers, and one is the overachiever, one is the black sheep of the family. Okay, this is what they asked last year a lot, again and again, major PYQ. They asked again and again in different groups, but this time they are doing foramen ovale. So I think the chances of foramen ovale to come tomorrow is more than spinosum. It's okay, we'll learn both. Another part is mandibular fossa, which is also very easy to figure out. Every externa, norma basalis externa, you can easily figure out zygomatic arch like this zygomatic arch. The moment zygomatic arch flattens, it forms a fossa. This fossa is called mandibular fossa. Now, this mandibular fossa and TMJ has relations like ball and socket. Of course, it is not the same joint. Obviously, I'm just making you visualize this like ball and socket. This is mandibular fossa, this is TMJ, and it is situated, it is joined by synovial condylar. Why it's important? Why the word condylar important? Because there's another joint like this, joint type, which is synovial ellipsoid. It comes later. Just a hint before I'll give you the occipital one. This is synovial ellipsoid. So you need to remember the word condylar. So the TMJ comes like this, and it fixes into mandibular fossa with the help of synovial fluid. You can imagine, right? The synovial ball and socket, they have synovial like this. So synovial, condylar, and TMJ. Now mandibular fossa is all you need to remember is the joint and the type of the joint. Okay, it's easy to figure out, I'm sure now. The continuation of zygomatic arch, you can easily figure out mandibular fossa by that. Okay, so we are done with mandibular fossa. Foramen lacerum is the ugliest foramen ever. Ugliest. He looks so old. He's so old. It's right here. He's so old and unsymmetrical. He's so ugly because he's so unsymmetrical. Everything which is unsymmetrical is very ugly. No offense. So this is foramen lacerum. What does it contain? It contains everything that a carotid canal contains, because whatever comes out of carotid canal goes into foramen lacerum. You can imagine, of course it doesn't happen like that, but you can imagine that whatever comes out of carotid canal goes inside this, just to remember. Okay, so imagine that there is a sympathetic chain plexus coming out of carotid canal, a vein and an artery, a vein and an artery coming out of carotid canal, going inside foramen lacerum like this. So take a screenshot, Yani, so that you remember. So the vein that is coming out of here is emegery vein, and the artery that is coming out of here is internal carotid artery. Now actually I'll tell you a little piece of information so that it will like active recall. Internal carotid arteries beginning, origin is foramen lacerum. We'll study about this later in blood vessels, that internal carotid arteries origin begins from here only, foramen lacerum, and you can see in the neck also. It's very easy to figure out. So internal carotid artery, emegery vein, and sympathetic plexus chain. Okay, we'll study about this now. Foramen lacerum, which is like PYQ, by the way, so it can come. Okay, internal carotid artery and sympathetic plexus around it with emegery vein. The same thing comes carotid canal. This is also PYQ. Carotid canal. Carotid canal is situated in front of styloid process, so you can easily figure out carotid canal. In the other part, externa, also you can easily figure out lacerum, but you cannot figure out carotid canal in interna. But in externa, it's very visible. Carotid canal is very visible here, right here. This is carotid canal. This is carotid canal. This is like this. It goes. Foramen lacerum, foramen lacerum. It looks so old. He's 80-year-old man, so ugly, unsymmetrical. That is foramen lacerum. Okay, the same content we have in lacerum is in the carotid canal, internal carotid artery, sympathetic plexus around it, and imagery vein. Now let's talk about very important part, jugular foramen, which also I think is gonna come tomorrow because it's a major PYQ too. Very important part. Now, before I make you understand the content of jugular foramen, I want you to make a note at the side of your notes that these cranial, of course you should know all the cranial nerves, but for now, for tomorrow's exam, you should know 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12th cranial nerve. Okay. Now the names of it is facial, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, hypoglossal. How to remember this? 7 and 8 cranial nerve is the content of internal auditory meters. Remember this. It will come later and I'll ask. Okay, internal auditory meters. 7 and 8. While 9, 10 and 11 is for jugular foramen that we are going to just study in like 2 minutes or so. And the 12th one is the hypoglossal, which is in the hypoglossal canal. Hypoglossal nerve in the hypoglossal canal. So 3 parts. This 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is divided into 3 parts. First 2 is internal auditory. Then next 3 is jugular foramen. And the last one is the hypoglossal canal. Coming to here, I want you to make another diagram like this, because it looks like this only. The jugular foramen looks like this. Make 3 cranial nerves, glossopharyngeal as we studied just right now, vagus nerve and accessory nerve coming from here. Okay. And I want you to actually add one more part to this, is this blue part. Why is this blue? Because it's a vein. And what vein is this? Because it's jugular foramen, so it's going to be internal jugular vein. This is what I need you to remember, that whenever they ask about jugular foramen, and once you identify jugular foramen, the next thing that should you should remember is this diagram right here. This thing and this thing. Okay, this blue part. Why is this blue? Because it's a vein. How to identify jugular foramen? It's right beside stylomastoid. Right beside stylomastoid. It's also visible from here. Here, look, such a big foramen right here. This is, look, I've written here also 9, 10, 11, and internal jugular vein, jugular foramen. Okay, it can be visible from here. So you'll put a stick kida. They'll put a stick kida. It's gonna come out from this part. Sorry, this part. Okay, it's gonna come out from this part. All right. I think we are done with jugular foramen also. Internal jugular vein, glossopharyngeal, which is 9th, vagus, which is 10th, accessory, which is 11th cranial nerve. We did mastoid process, we did styloid process. How many times I will have to tell you about this? Next is stylomastoid foramen. It's given in the name, stylomastoid. So it's between styloid process and mastoid process. Right here, this guy, this little guy is stylomastoid foramen. I want you to remember that from here, two things come, a nerve and an artery, a nerve and an artery, nerve and an artery, nerve and an artery. Like, see, stylomastoid process, mastoid process, so styloid process, mastoid process. Right in the middle of them is this little guy coming, nerve and artery. What nerve? Very important, facial nerve. Very, very, very important, facial nerve. And what artery? Stylomastoid artery, as given in the name. So stylomastoid foramen has two things coming out of it, facial nerve and stylomastoid artery. Next, easy. I think it's easy. It's very easy. Foramen, stylomastoid foramen. I think it can come tomorrow, but more important than this is foramen ovale. But if it comes, because it's also PYQ, this thing, stylomastoid is also PYQ, it can come because it's two parts, like it so makes total sense. Yani, one mark for this, one mark for this, and one mark for identification. So it fits completely, like it fits perfectly. It's okay, but we'll study more. We'll study everything and just know. I'm just telling this to those people who did not study at all and like who wants to know what is important, what is not. So stylomastoid comes under important. Foramen magnum, not important. I don't think so. It's going to come tomorrow. But you should know this. Why? Now everybody knows what the content of foramen is. It's the biggest hole, of course. The biggest hole. Been through a lot. Okay. Medulla and vertebral artery. Now, these two things everybody remembers. Everybody remembers these two things, medulla and vertebral artery. Of course, because medulla is right below this, the starting of the spinal cord, and you know the vertebra starting of the vertebra also. So medulla, vertebral artery. Okay. Then, what people forget mostly is this, spinal root accessory nerve. Where else did we study about this? Where else? SS. If you remember, sternomastoid muscle nerve supply is also this. Which part? C2, C3. Just active recalling. Okay. So spinal root accessory nerve is also a content of foramen magnum. These three things is content of foramen. Next part is occipital condyle. I think I talked about this. Firstly, I talked about this when I was talking about atlas in mandible. And then I talked about this when I was discussing mandibular fossa. It's right here. It looks like a chappal. Right here. It looks like a chappal. This part is occipital condyle. What is the significance of this? The first vertebra, which is atlas, the first vertebra is atlas, comes here. So atlanto, because whatever attaches to atlas, it's called as atlanto occipital. And we all know what is the type of the joint is ellipsoid, synovial ellipsoid. Okay, so this chappal. Okay, occipital condyle also done. Then hypoglossal canal, we also talked about hypoglossal canal already. We've already done so much stuff. Like while learning, I'll tell you, while learning, we learned so many things. So hypoglossal canal is the, right here, the 12th cranial nerve, hypoglossal, goes to hypoglossal canal. Okay, comes here. Hypoglossal canal has hypoglossal nerve. Another part which is important to know is emery vein. It's important, yani. It's like it fits perfectly, like 1 mark for identification, 1 mark for this, 1 mark for this, 3 marks. Okay, can come, yani it's a PYQ. Okay, so it can come, hypoglossal canal. Now where is this? How to identify this? It's right here, under the chappal. There's a canal like this, goes like this. There's a canal, goes like this, goes like this. Okay, this canal is called hypoglossal canal. You can figure this out also in the interna. Where is the hypoglossal canal? Right here, this part. Okay, so it puts a stick kida, like this, they'll put a stick like this, they'll put a stick like this, which comes out from here, or they'll put a stick like this. Okay, this is how they're gonna put and ask you what is this. So you're gonna have to tell hypoglossal canal that contains hypoglossal nerve as well as imagery vein. Okay, then external occipital protuberance, very easy, it's right here, it looks like a trapezium. Also another significance that I told you in the first video, that it consists, like it overlaps this muscle, that attaches this muscle, trapezius muscle, okay, whose also nerve supply spinal root accessory nerve, but C3 C4, I told you this before also. So this has occipital external occipital protuberance has two attachments, nuchal ligament and this important muscle that we discussed before. So the superior nuchal line is also another part of this externa, and it attaches sternomastoid as well as trapezius muscle. Okay, sternomastoid is C2 C3 and trapezius is C3 C4. Remember this, all right? Nuchal ligament and trapezius just for external occipital protuberance, and supernuchal line, this line right here, this line is superior nuchal line, attaches two muscles, which is trapezius and sternomastoid, right here. Superior nuchal line, sternomastoid, trapezius, C2 C3 C2 C3 C4 C3 C4 nuchal ligament. Coming to the next part, which is norma basalis interna. Now this is like filler episodes, like frontal cresta, I don't think so they're gonna come, but you know, we should know. Frontal crest, this is crista agelli, and this plate is cribriform plate, and whatever the pronunciation of this, and it oozes out olfactory filaments. Okay, it oozes out olfactory filaments. Frontal crest, it has falx cerebri. Why cerebri? Because this is the front part and this is the back part. Falx cerebelli, because it's in the occipital region, cerebri, and it's in the cerebrum region, so falx cerebri. All right, in frontal crest, falx cerebri. Now this part is internal occipital crest. Remember this part is internal occipital crest. Now we know this. Let's read. Frontal crest, we know. Falx cerebri, we know. Cerebrum plate, we know. Olfactory filaments. Important part is pituitary fossa, which is a PYQ. This is pituitary fossa. Here sits the pituitary gland. Okay, here sits the pituitary gland, sulca, tersica, whatever that is. So here is where it's gonna come. It might come, but probably not, because let's see. I mean, maybe it comes. It's not that important, but you know, it's a PYQ. It came way before, so it might not come. Let's see. Here since, but we should know pituitary gland. Okay, pituitary fossa. We know pituitary fossa. You can see it right here. This part. Okay, it's only visible in interna. Then we'll talk about clivus. Clivus is this point, this midline from pituitary fossa to foramen magnum. This part is clivus. It has pons and medulla, and whenever you see pons, you have to put basilar artery. You should know this. Wherever you see pons, put basilar artery with it. They both are like married to each other. Okay, pons comes with basilar artery. They don't go anywhere. Basilar artery doesn't trust pons too much, so it comes with it every time. Clivus, the contents of clivus is pons and medulla. Okay, we'll read about this and then we'll move forward. Structures related: pons with basilar artery and medulla. Foramen magnum, we already did three things: medulla, vertebral artery. Everybody understands, like everybody remembers this. What they don't remember is spinal root accessory nerve. Okay, mesh. Then optic foramen, major PYQ, so important. It's optic foramen, it has to be related with eyes. It's optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Where is it situated? Can be identified here. Not this part, this part. Okay, this part and this part from outside. As soon as it curves, it's like a cave, okay, and there's a hole, and you go inside for the secrets of life. Okay, this is optic foramen. Consists what? Optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Next, foramen rotundum 196. Last year it came. I had to write this, so I remember foramen rotundum. Majorly, so important. I'll tell you about this later. Okay, it's important. Just remember that's important. I'll tell you about this later. Let's read next one. Foramen ovale, spinosum, and lacerum we already did. Yeah, now internal auditory meatus. We studied this before. Have you heard this before? Yes, you had. Right here. 7th and 8th. Facial nerve, vestibulo. Of course, vestibulocochlear because vestibule and cochlear is related to the kan. The internal auditory is the ear part. Okay, internal auditory meatus has 7 to 7th and it has one more thing, IA, internal auditory artery. Okay, so with these two things it has IAA also. Okay, let's read. Internal auditory meatus, facial nerve 7th, vestibulocochlear 8th, cranial nerves, and internal auditory artery. Meshi. Jugular foramen we already did, hypoglossal we already did, internal occipital crest we already did. Now for foramen rotundum, coming back to this, I want to tell you this mnemonic from only for interna. Okay, it's visible in interna. They'll put a stick here because last time they did it and it came out from here. Okay, into the occipital the orbital. Okay, came out from the orbital eye bone. Okay, so the mnemonic that I use for these three brothers, in which this is the most well and respected overachiever brother, this is a black sheep of the family, is just any extra piece of whatever. So the mnemonic I use is SOR, SOR, re, for being so late with the videos. So SOR, alright, SOR, spinosum, ovale, and R, SOR. That's it. That's all you should know about skull. All the best. Bye bye.